Welcome to Leading by Example, Upholding Standards Without Compromise. I am your host, Dr. Vaughn, inspiring excellence, one lesson at a time. Are you ready to be better within your world and become the standard bearer within your organization or wherever you are? Leaders, aspirants, every one of you, all of us influence our culture, the organization's culture, our workplace's culture through actions taken both inside and outside of the workplace. I founded Ontero Solutions upon integrity, customer satisfaction, and attention to detail, specifically executive coaching and leadership development. Join in for fun, practical, and educational stories as I share lessons, both the good and the bad, that I have learned in my 20 years of leadership and management experience. Leading by Example starts now. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Leading by Example. Today marks the beginning of a new series, a three-part series. So this is the inaugural episode titled The Foundation of Integrity, Where Leadership Begins. We embark on a journey to the very heart of effective leadership, which is integrity, one of my favorite topics. This episode, which is titled The Core of Command, Integrity in Leadership, it delves deep into what integrity means in the realm of leadership and why it's not just an optional virtue, but a fundamental requirement for anyone who seeks to lead. We start by exploring the components and roots of integrity, the word that is, and examining how its meaning has evolved across cultures. With insights from historical figures, contemporary leaders, and leading scholars, we'll paint a vivid picture of integrity as the unwavering adherence to ethical principles, honesty, and consistency in actions and decisions. As we navigate the complex landscape of leadership, we uncover the pivotal role integrity plays in building trust, making ethical decisions, and steering organizations towards long-term success. Through compelling stories and real-life examples, we will illustrate the challenges that leaders face in maintaining their integrity amidst conflicting interests, pressures, and the temptations of short-term gains. This episode doesn't just highlight challenges, it also offers solutions. I'll share practical strategies and tools for leaders to cultivate and maintain their integrity, from fostering self-awareness to creating environments that champion ethical behavior. In later episodes, experts and thought leaders will share their wisdom on how to navigate the ethical dilemmas of leadership with grace and conviction. So each of you has an open invitation to be a guest on this show and share your personal stories. I would love to hear it, as well as the audience. So join us as we lay the groundwork for understanding the essence of leadership. The core of command, which is integrity in leadership, promises to be an enlightening exploration of how integrity forms the bedrock of all effective leadership, setting the stage for the subsequent episodes that delve into the impact of integrity on organizational culture and the nurturing of future leaders with integrity at their core. So thank you again for tuning in as we uncover why integrity is where leadership begins and how it can transform the way we lead and live. So in our first little section, the importance of integrity in leadership. Integrity in leadership is crucial because, for several reasons, integrity plays a foundational role in building trust, fostering a positive organizational culture, and guiding ethical decision-making. Here's a deeper look at why integrity is so important in leadership. For one, it builds trust. Integrity is at the heart of trust. Leaders who consistently act with honesty and uphold strong moral principles are more likely to gain the trust of their followers. This trust is essential for effective leadership, as it strengthens relationships within the organization and enhances the willingness of team members to follow directives and engage in organizational initiatives. Ethical decision-making is another. Leaders with integrity are more likely to make ethical decisions, considering not just the legal aspects, but also the moral implications of their actions. This ethical approach to decision-making helps prevent misconduct and ensures that the organization's actions align with its stated values and societal norms. Integrity is important to the organization's culture. Leaders set the tone for the organization's culture. When leaders display integrity, they model the values and behaviors they expect from their employees. This can lead to the development of a positive organizational culture characterized by honesty, accountability, and mutual respect. Sustainability and reputation. Organizations led by individuals with integrity are more likely to prioritize sustainable practices and build a strong reputation. This can lead to long-term success as stakeholders, including customers, investors, and employees, are more likely to support organizations that are seen as ethical and responsible. Integrity is important because you inspire others. Leaders who act with integrity inspire their followers to do the same. This has a ripple effect where the positive behaviors and attitudes associated with integrity spread throughout the entire organization, enhancing teamwork, creativity, and performance. Integrity is important for conflict resolution because it allows leaders to approach conflicts and challenges with a principled perspective, seeking solutions that are both fair and equitable. This can help resolve disputes more effectively and maintain harmony within the organization. And then the last reason why integrity, not last, but just one of the last ones that I'll note within this broadcast, integrity is important for attracting talent. Organizations known for their ethical leadership are more attractive to potential employees. Talented individuals are more likely to want to work for and stay with an organization that aligns with their own values of honesty and integrity. These factors combined underscore the profound impact that integrity can have on a leader's effectiveness and the overall success of the organization. So, defining integrity. Before we define integrity, I like to share a few of my favorite quotes on integrity from some historical figures and contemporary leaders that serve as powerful reminders of the timeless and universal importance of this virtue. So, Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor and philosopher. He says, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." I like it. It's so simple. Martin Luther King Jr., one of the greatest leaders in the American civil rights movement, said, "The time is always right to do what is right." And then the Bible, Proverbs 11:3, the New Revised Standard Version says, "The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them." Some quotes from contemporary leaders, from Michelle Obama, the former First Lady of the United States. She said, "Real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not, but you did the right thing." And Warren Buffett, American investor and philanthropist, he said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Ponder that thought. How many times have you noted that someone who has, been soaring along, doing just fine, you're thinking that they're, winning, and then they do something that begins to unravel that fabric that changes their whole image? These quotes and the biblical scripture reflect the understanding that integrity is not just a moral virtue, but a practical guiding principle that leads to success and respect, both in our personal lives and in leadership roles. So, in defining integrity, the word integrity has a rich historical and etymological background, reflecting its evolution and meaning over time. It originates from the Latin word integritas, which comes from integer, meaning whole, complete, or untouched. The root, integ, implies an untouched condition, suggesting purity and blamelessness. The concept of integrity, therefore, originally conveys a sense of wholeness, unbroken condition, and original purity. Over time, the meaning of integrity has evolved and expanded, and this is where it started to change. So, in the classical and medieval periods, in its early usage, integrity was closely related to the physical and moral wholeness or soundness of an object or person, and it was used to describe the unimpaired state of something, as well as moral purity or the lack of corruption in individuals. In the medieval period, the term began to acquire a stronger moral and ethical connotation, referring to the virtue of being honest and having strong moral principles. During the Renaissance to the Enlightenment periods, the concept of, let me back up. During the Renaissance period, the concept of integrity continued to be associated with the idea of moral and ethical uprightness. It was often linked to personal honor and the consistency between one's beliefs and actions. During the Enlightenment, with the emphasis on reason and individualism, integrity became associated with the authenticity of the self and the consistency of one's actions with one's reasoned beliefs and principles. During the modern era, in contemporary usage, integrity encompasses the notions of honesty, moral uprightness, and the consistency of actions with stated values and principles. It implies a steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code and the state of being whole, undivided, or uncorrupted in moral values. Today, integrity is often discussed in context ranging from personal character to professional and organizational ethics, highlighting its continued importance as a virtue in various spheres of life. The evolution of the word integrity reflects broader changes in societal values and understandings of moral and ethical behavior. From its roots in wholeness and purity, the concept has grown to embody principles of honesty, ethical consistency, and moral uprightness, maintaining its relevance across different historical periods and cultural contexts. So now within our modern interpretations for today, contemporary views on integrity emphasize a multi-dimensional concept that integrates honesty, we keep harping on that, ethical behavior, and consistency between your values and your actions, what you do. These views are reflective of the complex societal, organizational, and personal landscapes of the modern world. Here's how each of these components plays a crucial role in the contemporary understanding of integrity. So honesty. Honesty is often seen as the cornerstone, the foundational bedrock of integrity. It involves truthfulness, transparency, and the absence of deceit in one's words and actions. In contemporary settings, honesty is not just about not lying. It's about being authentic and genuine in all dealings, whether personal or professional. Ethical behavior is another component that plays a crucial role in understanding integrity. It involves acting in ways that are consistent with what society and individuals typically think are good values. Ethical behavior includes fairness, equity, justice, and respect for others. In the context of integrity, it means making decisions and taking actions that are not only legally correct, but are also morally commendable. Today, ethical behavior is increasingly under scrutiny in all spheres, including business, politics, and social interactions, reflecting the global demand for more ethical leadership and governance. And this is just a little side note. Just think about in your experiences from what you've seen. What I would be interested to hear from you. You could put a note in the chat or just send me an email. What do you think is causing the degradation of integrity? Do you think integrity has improved? Regardless of what generation you're in. The generation I'm in, I feel like I'm seeing a degradation of integrity because people my age were raised a certain way, and I'm not ashamed to say that I will be 52 in September. And then you have, other schools of thought where people think that the younger generations are not, as beholden to displaying ethical behavior or don't value integrity as much. I would like to know what you think. I have some additional training that I'm putting together, and I just want to know what the masses, think, because it's a curious point for me, especially as a mother of two young men who are in those younger generations. We do value differently on, what's acceptable morally and not. And just moving on to close out this section, consistency in values and actions is another reason why integrity is important. Contemporary views on integrity also strongly emphasize the alignment between stated values and actual actions. This consistency is crucial in judging an individual's or an organization's integrity. It's about living one's values, not just professing them. So walking it like you talk it. This aspect of integrity is particularly relevant in an era where there's a heightened awareness of social issues and a demand for individuals and organizations to act responsibly and in accordance with their public commitments to various causes. Organizational integrity in a broader context. In the corporate world, integrity is linked to corporate ethics, governance, and social responsibility. Organizations are expected to operate in ways that are consistent with their values and ethical principles, contributing positively to society and the environment. Personal integrity. On a personal level, integrity involves self-awareness, which is so key. I teach a class on that. I would love to share with you some strong findings that will help you. But again, integrity involves self-awareness, personal reflection, and an ongoing effort to align one's actions with one's values and principles. This aspect is seen as vital for personal growth, professional development, and building trust in personal and professional relationships. So here's an interesting point that I wanted to share with you all. Integrity has a dynamic nature. Contemporary discourse recognizes that integrity is not a static trait, but a dynamic quality that evolves over time. It requires continuous reflection and adaptation as societal norms, ethical standards, and personal or organizational circumstances change. The world we live in is not static. So as the world changes and, different laws are introduced to us, our dynamics will change. The nature of our integrity will change. So, sometimes you just need a little nudge to, keep you mindful of that. Miss Moxie, would you mind sharing the personal integrity graphic? The producer is going to show a graphic that highlights the components of personal integrity. There are 8 components. The first one being honesty, again, which is the foundation or the bedrock of integrity. And that is being truthful in all situations, avoiding deception, and being open and transparent with others. Consistency, being consistent, align your actions with your words. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Ensure that your beliefs and values match up with your behavior in various situations. Accountability, take responsibility for your actions, including admitting mistakes and making amends where necessary. Ethical decision-making is the 4th component of integrity. And that involves making choices that are morally right and fair, even when they are not the easiest or most beneficial to oneself. The 5th component is respect for others. Treat people with dignity and fairness, valuing diversity and considering the impact of one's actions on others. The 6th component is reliability, which is following through on commitments and promises, being someone others can depend on. This is one of my personal pet peeves. Be reliable. I try to be. And if you can't, you let that person know things have changed. I have to alter the course of my direction, but, be reliable. The 7th component is courage. Stand up for what's right, even in the face of personal or professional risk. And that is easier said than done, because sometimes you could be out on an island by yourself. And then the last component of integrity is humility. Recognize your limitations, being open to feedback and willing to learn and to grow. So all 8 of these components work together to form the foundation of integrity, which guide people or, guide anybody, in leadership, whether it's at home or in the professional setting, to foster trust and build a reputation of reliability and ethical leadership. Integrity isn't just about what we do when people are watching, but also it's just as much about what we do when people aren't watching. It's a commitment to doing the right thing always, which is why it's so important in leadership and in beyond. It should be, your daily compass to live, a life that is bound by integrity. And then the last component I want to talk about before we move to the role of integrity is societal integrity. At the societal level, integrity relates to the establishment of systems and institutions that promote fairness, justice, and equality. This includes efforts to combat corruption, uphold the rule of law, and ensure that societal norms and policies reflect ethical principles. So to summarize, and forgive me, I don't know why I'm having a difficult time talking. It's like my front teeth are too big today. But anyway, to summarize, contemporary views on integrity emphasize a holistic approach that encompasses honesty, ethical behavior, and consistency between values and actions. Integrity is considered essential for building trust, fostering transparent and fair relationships, and ensuring ethical conduct in all areas of life. Integrity is seen as both a personal virtue and a foundational principle for ethical leadership and governance in society. So now we're going to move on to our next section where we talk about the role of integrity in leadership. I've researched several studies that have underscored the significant role that integrity plays in leadership effectiveness and organizational outcomes. And here are some insights from recent research that highlight the importance of integrity in leadership. A study titled Leadership and Organizational, a study titled Leadership and Organizational Development was conducted by Engelbrecht, Hine, and Mahembe, and it explores the relationship between integrity and ethical leadership, trust, and work engagement. Their findings suggest that integrity not only supports ethical leadership, but has a profound impact on increasing trust and engagement within the workplace. The study emphasizes that a leader's integrity is crucial for fostering an environment where employees feel committed and involved in their work. And then in the following year, this first study that I referenced was published in 2017 by Engelbrecht, Hine, and Mahembe. This next study was published in 2018, and it was featured in the Management Dynamics Journal of the Southern African Institute for Management Scientists. And it examined the effects of altruism and integrity on ethical leadership and organizational justice. And what they found was a positive relationship between a leader's integrity and the establishment of a just organizational environment, which highlights the role of integrity in enhancing ethical leadership practices. So these studies collectively underscore the vital role of integrity in promoting ethical leadership, building trust, fostering employee engagement, and enhancing organizational justice. While direct statistics may not be readily available right now for me to share with you, the research that I just shared strongly supports that the notion that integrity is a key determinant of leadership effectiveness and organizational health. And that's why I'm harping on it so strongly before I get into the deeper content of leading by example. So lastly, integrity is vital to trust and reliability, decision-making, and the long-term success of an organization. Let's discuss each of these components in greater detail. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to break. I'm sorry, producer, I'm just a rambling. We will take a quick break and we'll be right back and discuss trust and reliability. All right, so welcome back, everyone. Before we went to break, we were about to talk about why integrity is vital to trust and reliability, decision-making, and the long-term success of an organization. So let's discuss each of these components in greater detail. So the first component, trust and reliability. Integrity is important because, again, it's considered the bedrock upon which trust between leaders and their followers is built. This foundational role is multifaceted and it impacts various aspects of leadership and organizational dynamics. So here's how integrity fosters trust. Again, consistency is like that foot stomping word. There's consistency between words and actions. People see that, they watch it. I can just share this one little thing with you. When I was in the military as a company commander, you may think people aren't watching, or, this little thing, they only notice if I do something big, but people even watch when you do one little thing. I noticed one day information, and this is like a simple thing, has nothing to do with integrity, but it just gives you insight as to what people watch. I had a lot of, females in my organization. And I looked out when I first took command, they really didn't wear, makeup or anything, because a lot of females in the military, feel like that's not appropriate to wear a uniform in garrison. I don't subscribe to that nonsense. But anyway, after I took company command, I noticed that a lot of the women, the majority of all of them had on mascara and lip gloss, which is like my thing, lip gloss. And, a lot of the African-American women had braids because I had braids at the time. So they watch. So that's why, you have to be consistent with your words and actions because people watch every little thing you do. So when you have that slip up, They watching you, and unfortunately, you'll be judged by it as well. So, moving right along, consistency between words and actions. Integrity involves a congruence between what leaders say and what they do. When leaders consistently act in accordance with their stated values and principles, it provides a clear signal to followers that they are reliable and trustworthy. Think about how many times have you seen someone, not behave this way, where you saw, an inconsistency between words and actions. How did that make you feel, as a member of that organization? Did you want to stay? Did you want to assume a greater leadership role, maybe to replace that person? Or you want to take a role somewhere else because you felt like it was, too shady and, would mess up, your brand by being there. But again, this consistency reduces uncertainty and builds confidence among followers in their leaders' commitments and decisions. Ethical decision making. Leaders with integrity prioritize ethical considerations in their decision making processes. There is a formula. They make choices that are not only beneficial to the organization, but also fair and just to all stakeholders involved. This ethical stance is crucial for followers who need to believe that their leaders are making decisions that are morally sound and in the best interest of the collective, not just for personal gain. And we know, leaders know that, decisions for the collective are not easy ones, but they must occur nonetheless. Accountability and responsibility. Integrity also means taking responsibility for one's actions, including owning up to mistakes. Leaders who demonstrate accountability show that they are committed to fairness and rectifying any wrongs. This responsibility is critical for trust, as it reassures followers that leaders are genuinely committed to the well-being of the group and the ethical standards they possess. And also it shows, relatability. When you have a leader that can admit that they were wrong or off the mark, and they can share that with, those that are within their charge, you just have no idea how far that goes in mission accomplishment. People who can believe in their leader, there's nothing that they won't do for you. I shouldn't say nothing, very little that they won't do for you. Respect for others. A leader with integrity shows respect for the dignity and rights of others, fostering an environment where everyone feels valued and heard. This respect is essential for trust, as it encourages a sense of belonging and security among followers, knowing that their leader values them as individuals as well as their contributions. The second component is decision making. The presence of integrity within decision making processes, especially within the context of ethics, profoundly influences both the approach and the outcomes of those decisions. And here are several ways in which integrity impacts ethical decision making. It leads the core values. Integrity ensures that decisions are consistently aligned with a set of core ethical values and principles. This alignment guides decision makers to consider what is right and just over what might be immediately beneficial or expedient. It means that decisions are not merely reactions to external pressures or temptations, but are informed by a steady moral compass. This is so important because, a steady moral compass. Think about, and send me a note if you can, about what does it mean to you to have a steady moral compass, and how do you get one? So that you can rely on that steady moral compass when external pressures or temptations arise. You got to know what you're staying for. What's your, what's your, I don't know. I don't want to say who spot. That's probably not it. But what is your thing? You know, and how does that shape you or shape the decisions that you make in tough situations? And it's so critical because you have to have that and know what it is before those situations arise so that you make the best decisions, because these types of decisions, those that are made under pressures or temptations, should not be made on the fly. They need to be made and based in integrity, your moral fiber. Again, so integrity is also considerate of stakeholder impact. Ethical decision-making rooted in integrity involves considering the impact of decisions on all stakeholders, not just the makers or a select few. So this comprehensive view encourages leaders to weigh the consequences of their actions on their employees, their customers, communities, and the environment, leading to more sustainable and responsible outcomes. And this is huge because leadership is tough. To whom much is given, much is required, right? We all heard that quote before. because you have all of these various considerations. Integrity also helps prevent ethical breaches because it acts as a safeguard against ethical breaches. When integrity is a key component of the decision-making process, it minimizes the risk of unethical behavior such as corruption, fraud, and misconduct. This preventative measure protects the organization's interests and upholds its ethical standards. And then lastly, within this portion, this second component, integrity helps cultivate a positive organizational culture. Decision-making processes influenced by integrity contribute to cultivating a positive organizational culture, one in which ethical behavior, accountability, and respect influence the behavior of individuals within the organization. A culture rooted in integrity encourages employees to act ethically, enhancing the collective moral behavior of the organization. This, so in short, I should say, integrity has to be a day-to-day consideration within your organization. It has to be woven into the fiber, not something that you just talk about or preach about when something bad happens and, oh, let's do training. Everybody, we got to do all hands, or safety stand down or whatever. No, it needs to be woven into the fabric of your organization on the day-to-day. And then lastly, the third component within this section, long-term success, the linkage between integrity and the long-term success and sustainability of an organization is profound and multifaceted. Integrity by fostering trust, ethical behavior, and consistency in values and actions serves as a critical underpinning for the resilience and enduring success of organizations. And here are some key mechanisms through which integrity contributes to long-term organizational success and sustainability. It helps enhance reputation of an organization, which is one of the organization's most valuable assets, your reputation. Not just the organization, but a person as well. Integrity in actions and decisions helps build a positive reputation, distinguishing the organization as reliable, ethical, and socially responsible. A strong reputation not only attracts customers and talent, but it also builds resilience against crises, as stakeholders are more likely to give the benefit of the doubt to organizations they perceive as having high moral standards. So that's a consideration. That's something that we all need to take and run with right there. Ensuring compliance and minimizing risk is another. Integrity leads to a proactive approach to compliance with laws, regulations, and ethical standards, which reduces the risk of legal challenges, fines, and reputational damage that may arise from noncompliance. And this helps protect the organization and ensure its long-term viability. And then lastly, we all worry about the financial performance of an organization. Integrity helps sustain that. It may sometimes seem in conflict with short-term financial performance, but in the long run, it sustains financial health by building strong relationships with your customers, by attracting investments and avoiding those costs associated with unethical behaviors. And when we say those costs avoided or associated with unethical behaviors, just think about, breaches and, those little payouts. Now, for the organization that has those breaches, the payouts are huge. Now, you and I on the receiving end, you may get an email saying, oh, give us your address so we can send you this check for $5, but still, it's a huge cost to the organization when they don't loop or integrate integrity into their day-to-day operations. So the linkage between integrity and the long-term success and sustainability of an organization is evident across a variety of dimensions, and it acts as a stabilizing force which guides an organization through challenges. It helps enable strong and ethical decision-making. It fosters trust and loyalty among your stakeholders, and it contributes to a sustainable success in an increasingly complex and highly scrutinized business environment. Now, there are some challenges to maintaining integrity, and we'll talk about a couple of those. Actually, what I think I'm going to do, because I have more content than time. So what we are going to do is I'm going to jump down, and the content that I was going to discuss today, that I have left, I'm going to roll it up into the second episode of this series. We will be talking about organizational culture, but I will roll this in just to kind of, tie it all together so it all makes sense for you. Okay. But what I wanted to talk about really quickly, I wanted us to do an affirmation that is based on the personal, components of personal integrity. So, Moxie, can you show the graphic for the affirmation for personal integrity? I would like us all to say this. Um, you can screenshot it, say it to yourself, but I'm going to recite it. And, I just want it to be something that you think about. Let it resonate and marinate within your spirit as you leave within your home or within your workplace. So here it is. I am truthful in all situations and am open and transparent with others. I align my actions with my words. I take responsibility for my actions and admit mistakes and make amends where necessary. I make choices that are morally right and fair, even when I do not benefit. I treat people with dignity and fairness. I value diversity and I consider the impact of my actions on others. I follow through on commitments and promises, and I am reliable. I stand up for what is right, even in the face of personal or professional risk. And lastly, I know my limitations. I am open to feedback and I am willing to learn and grow. All right. So we're going to talk about challenges. What are the challenges to maintaining integrity? Some of those challenges include conflicting interests, pressure, and temptation, and how to maintain integrity during a crisis. So, conflicting interests, navigating conflicts between personal interests, organizational goals, and ethical standards is a critical challenge for leaders. The effective resolution of these conflicts requires a delicate balance, ensuring that decisions are made in a way that upholds ethical standards while considering the needs of the organization and managing personal interests. Here are some strategies that leaders can employ to navigate these conflicting interests. You can establish clear ethical guidelines. That's number one. Leaders should advocate for and help develop clear ethical guidelines and codes of conduct within the organization, as these guidelines provide a framework for decision making that helps prevent conflicts between personal interests and organizational goals. And also, it serves as a benchmark from which actions can be measured for their ethical integrity. Leaders can foster an ethical culture, and that means, cultivating a culture that prioritizes ethical behavior over short-term gains. You can seek external advice and perspectives from external consultants. Sometimes resolving conflicts of interest requires an outside perspective from a legal advisor, an ethics committee, or industry peers. Again, we talked about stakeholders earlier, but you can prioritize their interests to minimize conflict. When leaders consider the impact of their decision on all stakeholders, including the employees, customers, shareholders, and the community, and by prioritizing the well-being of these groups, these interest groups, the long-term interests of the organization, the leaders can make decisions that are ethically sound and sustainable. And then more, I think most importantly is, having a continuous reflection on your personal values and integrity. Leaders must engage in regular self-reflection to ensure that their actions and decisions are aligned with their personal values and ethical standards. Pressure and temptation. There are numerous pressures and temptation to integrity. We'll highlight a few, but think about which ones resonate with you. Leaders often face a range of pressures that can tempt them away from maintaining integrity. Some of these pressures stem from various sources, including personal, organizational, and external factors, such as some of them carry their own set of challenges. We'll leave it there for now. Understanding these pressures is crucial for leaders aiming to uphold ethical standards and navigate the complex landscape of leadership responsibly. And here are some key pressures that leaders may encounter. So, think about which ones resonate with you. Short-term performance expectations. Leaders are frequently under pressure to deliver immediate results, to boost financial performance or meet aggressive sales targets, or just to meet shareholder expectations within a short time frame. The urgency to show quick wins can sometimes tempt leaders to compromise and cut corners. No compromise, right? Personal gain. Sometimes the desire for personal gain or personal advancement, such as bonuses, promotions, or recognition, can sometimes lead leaders to prioritize their own interests over ethical considerations or the well-being of their team or organization. And some people, some of these, as we go through these pressures, you may say, "Oh, that's not me." But you know what? Some of us have I have a strategic coaching model that, if you're interested, I can talk about with you separately offline that will help you to see what some of those, internal and external behaviors, core behaviors you have as a leader that may be, sabotaging to yourself and to your organization. Sometimes, leaders may find themselves, in organizational cultures that do not prioritize ethical behavior or where unethical practices are implicitly condoned. And, conforming to these bad norms can be a significant temptation, especially if the behavior is perceived as a disadvantage or career limiting. And then, yeah, social and peer pressure is one of the last ones I want to talk about. Um, it still exists, even though we grown folk. Peer pressure. Leaders may also face peer pressure from their social or professional networks to conform to certain behaviors or practices. This can include expectations to engage in quid pro quo arrangements, participate in exclusive but unethical opportunities, or follow industry practices that are ethically dubious or shady, in other words. And then lastly, one of the situations that may cause compromise is near and dear to my heart, crisis situations, because I spent 20 some years in the military. And leadership in a crisis, is still leadership, but you have this extra weight on your shoulders as a leader. Because crises, whether they're internal or external, can create environments where normal rules seem to be suspended. The urgency and stress of managing a crisis can lead to compromised decision making where ethical considerations are overlooked in favor of immediate resolution. And to navigate these pressures without compromising integrity, leaders need a strong ethical foundation, a clear sense of their personal and organizational values, and the courage to make difficult decisions. Additionally, creating a supportive organizational culture that prioritizes ethical behavior and provides mechanisms for accountability and transparency can help leaders maintain their integrity in the face of these challenges. So, some tips for leaders to maintain integrity in crisis is, trust preservation. Integrity ensures that communications and actions are transparent, honest, and consistent, which preserves and can even enhance trust when it matters most. Leaders need to have decision-making clarity because crises often require rapid decision-making amidst uncertainty. Integrity provides a clear framework for making these decisions. Leaders need to have moral leadership. During crises, leaders have a unique opportunity to demonstrate moral leadership. By prioritizing integrity, they model the behavior and values they expect from others, setting a standard for ethical conduct within the organization, which reinforces a culture of integrity that can outlast the crisis. And also, those within your charge are watching. They are watching to see how get the organization and them over this hurdle. And then lastly, risk management. Integrity and decision making helps in identifying and managing ethical risks that may be heightened during crises. So this proactive approach to risk management can prevent further escalation of the crisis and safeguard the organization against additional vulnerabilities. So some takeaways. Moxie, for the sake of time, can you share the enhancing self-awareness graphic? So this graphic that the producer is sharing, it captures some like 4 key things that you can do, that leaders can do, or strategies, I should say, for upholding integrity. Self-awareness is so key, and that's the first one. And you gain self-awareness through reflective practices, such as engaging in regular reflection through journaling, meditation, or mindfulness practices or exercises. They enhance self-awareness by encouraging you to think deeply about your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Seeking feedback is the second strategy. Actively seeking and openly receiving feedback from others. Actively seeking and openly receiving feedback. I say again, mainly for myself, actively seeking and openly receiving. And I say that because I'm a perfectionist, so it's hard to actively seek and openly receive feedback from others. This helps because it provides valuable insight into your behavior, how it impacts others, and areas where you can grow. Diverse experiences is a third strategy. And this is important because it exposes you to diverse perspectives and experiences that can challenge your existing beliefs and biases, fostering greater openness and adaptability, making you more agile. And then the last strategy is professional development. participating in leadership development programs such as workshops or coaching, which I offer, executive leadership coaching with Antero Solutions, my shameless plug. It focuses on self-awareness and emotional intelligence that can provide tools and strategies for recognizing your own biases and aligning actions with your values. So self-awareness and these strategies are fundamental to recognizing your personal biases and ensuring that your actions are in harmony with your stated values that we talked about earlier. You need to know what they are in advance. So and now it not only underpins ethical behavior and effective leadership, but it also promotes personal growth, better relationships with your peers and your, I don't like to say subordinates, but those within your charge, and a more inclusive society. By cultivating self-awareness, individuals and leaders can contribute to a more ethical, respectful, and productive environment. So with that, we are going to end today's show, and I'm going to wrap up the rest of this in our next show as we get prepared to talk about organizational culture, integrity within the organization's culture. So thank you again for joining me. I look forward to meeting and speaking with you on Thursday, April 18th, for the next episode. Goodbye. You have been listening to Leading by Example, Upholding Standards Without Compromise. I am your host, Dr. Vaughn, bringing you inspiring excellence, one lesson at a time. Tune in to Transformation Talk Radio every first and third Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific for fun, practical, and educational stories as I share lessons, both the good and the bad, that I have learned in my 20 years of leadership and management experience. As we go through and learn these lessons, I would ask you to be thinking about those lessons that you bring that you could share for potential, hey, you may even want to be a guest on our show. So think about those lessons as we continue to explore inspiring excellence one lesson at a time. For more information, please visit www.anterosolutions.com. That's ENTERO.